I open with salutations of Happy Fourth. Were I in a different mindset that would disregard the plight of the African American or the black person in today's society, and I realize that the plight that we face today, while it's advanced and it's well recorded, it's not very much different from our plight 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, or 200, or 300, or 400 years ago. Whereas our fetters and our shackles have disappeared physically, they're still on us economically, academically, socially. And for the first time, I feel like I live in the United States of America. I feel like I live in a country where everyone is dealing with the thing that we deal with within our hearts every single day. We're coming to terms with race. No matter what side of the aisle you fall on, or what side of the conversation you fall on, race is something that's being heavily discussed and heavily debated, especially this 4th of July. I'm not flying a flag in my yard. There is no red, white, or blue brazened on my chest. There is no gathering. Even with social distancing, there's no gathering for my family, because I hear the words of Dr. King ring in my heart, and I remember the speech where he opened up talking about how 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. This is how he opens the "I Have a Dream" speech. Many of you know that ending part, but when you read it, he starts with saying that he's standing in the shadow of someone who emancipated slaves. And the weird thing is that in August of 1963, Dr. King delivers that speech. And he says, 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. And now I look back at that speech and I say, even 50 years after that, the Negro, almost 60 years, the Negro is still not free. The black man, the African American, and with the African American and the black man, neither is the Latino or the Asian American, neither is any other minority group. And none of us get to sing "We Have Overcome" until we all overcome. And so we sing "We Shall Overcome." I was going to sit, share, and recite with you a piece by Frederick Douglass, one of his most popular pieces outside of his autobiographies, a speech he made to the Rochester's Ladies Anti-Slavery Society in 1852, July of 1852. And he expressed from the thought of what to the slave is the 4th of July. And I'd like to express that today and pose the question, what to the black man or the black woman is the 4th of July? When you live in a country where murder can be on record and people in law enforcement go unpunished, where there are invisible barriers made in neighborhoods, and there is an inequality in access to technology, to funds for business opportunities, disadvantage in being able to achieve home ownership, and certainly a disadvantage in voting. Those things haven't been fixed. Those things for black people were not a part of the rhetoric when we talk about this amazing Constitution and this amazing Declaration of Independence. When they were dealing with the Declaration of Independence, they were not dealing with me. I know it because after the Declaration of Independence, they made other federal documents that counted me as 3/5 of a human. And that was even a compromise for those that wanted to fight for men and women who looked like me, whose DNA is part of my construct, for them to be able to vote. And we still have to fight for the right to be heard and to express ourselves. And then be questioned when people like Colin Kaepernick take a knee, and be called anti-patriotic, when in fact the African American is the most patriotic American that there is, more patriotic than any other nationality or ethnicity. And I say that because we fought for a flag that never fought for us. We died for a flag that never laid down her life for us. And so there's no flag this 4th for us, for my family, and for many families across the nation. There are many that have never celebrated it. And I think that I looked at my patriotism through the viewpoint of so many others, because it was a time to celebrate. And while I always celebrated Juneteenth, and I always was very engaged in my own history, I amended things to be able to celebrate what I thought was my obligation to a nation that was never obliged to me. And when you grow up putting your hand over your chest and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, there is this thing that's indoctrinated into you. And then knowledge comes, and you realize where the indoctrination is, and the unfair advantage that a white man has over a black man in this country. And while I wholeheartedly agree that we are born with unalienable rights of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of prosperity, the pursuit of wealth, I know that those words didn't and don't include me yet. So I'll stop talking. And instead of me reciting Frederick Douglass's word of what the 4th means to the American slave, I'll let a more consummate actor and vocalist voice those words these many years later.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes that would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour forth a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and the crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.